I'm really fairly happy with how these turned out. I really quite like them. And like I say, I think Crocodile Rock suits them more than BeetleStone. But I've got no say in that. Hey, g'day. Recently, friends and I were out past Kalgoorlie in the Goldfields of Western Australia, and we've stumbled across this rock here, this type of rock. Now, since then, I've looked it up and I've heard it referred to as BeetleStone. It looks to me like a conglomerate version, a conglomerate of magnesite. Not all that small, I've got some big ones as well. Some of them have these really interesting veins running through them. So yeah, assuming it's conglomerate magnesite, I'm going to be cutting some up, polishing it. It does seem a little brittle in places, but some seem more solid. So yeah, cutting up some pieces of this rock, BeetleStone, and tumble polishing it. Let's see how it turns out. Thanks for tuning into my YouTube channel. I make videos on all things rock related, from finding, cutting and polishing. And if you haven't already subscribed, please consider doing so. Also, please like, comment and share my videos to help me try and overcome this YouTube algorithm. Thanks. As always, I cut any larger rocks down to more, what would you call it, bite-sized pieces on my 9-inch saw here. That probably, cutting that rock, I've sped this up, that probably took about a minute and a half. Turns out the BeetleStone's a fairly soft rock, which could end up causing issues. From there I pre-shape them. Not everyone does this, but I just find a minute rolling them against the blade here can save weeks in the tumbler. Plus you get a bit of a say in the final shape. So each rock just gets tumbled against the blade like that. Till I'm happy with the shape, then they can get loaded into the tumbler. Now this is what I've ended up with, quite a few pieces of BeetleStone. I really like it. It's sort of more like a crocodile skin. I might call it crocodile rock. But no, it's been called BeetleStone, so I've got to stick with that, I guess. Now let's load up the barrels, ready for stage one. I showed that rock there. I might hopefully end up with some pendants out of this lot. Now I use all the offcuts, the bits that sort of broke off as I was cutting, as filler rock. Now the idea of filler rock is that it gets in between the larger pieces, just to sort of distribute grit and polish more evenly. If you just had large ones, large rocks in there, it wouldn't really round off as much. So yeah, the smaller pieces, filler rocks, is as the name suggests, fills in between the larger ones. Getting a bit pedantic there. Yeah, there you go. Now add some water. The water goes into just below the level of the surface rocks. You can see there. And now we add some grit. Stage one is 81 grit silicon carbide. That's the standard. I was using 46 for a while, only because I couldn't get the 80, but 80 is the preferred grit for stage one. So each of these barrels holds 6 pounds. So you do a tablespoon per pound. So each of those barrels gets 6 pounds of, 6 tablespoons of grit. The lids go on. The locking nuts go on. Nice and tight. Now I need to turn this on. This is a QT66, so 2 6-pound tumblers. Not that switch, dopey. It feels like it there. That's right. All right, now I always give these barrels a bit of a shake before I chuck them on. Don't know if it helps or not, but That's good fun. Now with the Q366, it has this guide on the end. I missed it there. You'll see what I mean? It stops the barrels from wandering. Keeps them in place. Actually keeps the end one in place, and then this one here sort of butts up against it. And he can't wander anyway. So they tumble now for a week. This is what we have after 1 week. Quite a mess. The reason for that, the reason why it's so thick and gluggy, is that the rock is very soft. I think, I haven't tested it, a bit of a mess. I haven't actually tested it, but I suspect it's something like a 3, maybe a 4 on the Mohs scale. Just through cutting it, you get a feel when you cut it, and then looking at what's coming out here. It's obviously a very soft rock. I give the barrels a bit of a rinse, and the rocks a rinse, but because it was so muddy, I had to give them a second rinse. No one said it was a clean job. So this is after the second rinse, looking much nicer. Now you can't see it here, but they feel very rough. Again, because it's a soft rock. And what happens is the green or yellow sections are a bit harder than the brown. So you can actually feel where it's undercut in the brown areas, just slightly. Now the rock's got a good rinse under running water and a scrub with a toothbrush. They're ready for stage 2, which is 220 grit silicon carbide. Now the thing about this, the Vard tumbler, is it uses much less grit and polish. So we will be using, we got 12 before, 12 tablespoons. I'm going to use 3 tablespoons in here. It's much quicker too. The stages in the Vard tumbler are only 2 days as opposed to at least a week in the rotary tumblers. See you in 2 days. Well, that was actually, this is the problem because it's a soft rock. This is the next day, the next morning. The rocks have totally stopped. I gave them a quick spray, loosened them up a bit. This is after a few minutes. This is after 5 minutes. So they're happy again. Happy again, but not for long. This was probably about 6 hours later. It's almost like cement. They are still kind of loose, so I thought I'd persuade them with a toothbrush. Let's see if I can get them moving again. This was them after a few minutes, off and running once more. But yeah, very soft rock. Here we are emptying the bowl after stage 2. Nowhere near as muddy this time, so that's good. And starting to look good. I can feel this smooth now, not as rough. So I've got a bit of hope. Here we are at stage 3. We will use 600 grit silicon carbide for stage 3. Again, just 3 tablespoons, which is probably a bit much because that's a 10-pound barrel and it's not anywhere near full. It'll be 3/4 at the most, I guess. So yeah, 3 tablespoons, and again, that'll go for 2 days. This is them 2 days later. There wasn't any glugging up like there was in the earlier stages. And again, looking fairly good. I think they'll turn out alright. Now stage 4. Stage 4 is 1 micron aluminium oxide. Again, 3 tablespoons. chuck the lid on. And see you in 2 days. 2 days later, time to empty out the rocks again and get a look at what we have ended up with. Almost. I'll give them a quick rinse. Looking pretty good. Now we just need to give them a swim in borax. So normally there's no water in the bowl, but for this last stage, you fill the bowl with water and rocks. And give them a tablespoon of borax. What that does is it gets rid of any grit that's still caught up in the box. And there is some there, look at that, that's the next morning, so anything grey there has come out of the rocks. Oh yeah, one more stage, my favourite, is ultrasonic cleaning. So the rocks go into these ultrasonic cleaners. Again, because there's still, no matter how well you clean them, you'll always get grit coming out of cracks and holes in the rocks. So this is the final stage of cleaning. Right, so this is how they turned out. Shiny, sort of. Colourful, not so much. If you compare it to a wet rock, which is what this one is, much more colourful. You can see them side by side. So what I've decided to do is to give them a quick coat of acrylic lacquer. Not everyone's cup of tea, and then it's not really a natural polish. But it was the only way to bring the colours out nicely. You can see here in the finished rocks. So these have been polished and then finished off with an acrylic lacquer, an automotive lacquer. And here I will leave you with a slideshow of some of the better ones. I'm really fairly happy with how these turned out, besides having the clear coat. I really quite like them. And like I say, I think Crocodile Rock suits them more than BeetleStone. Well, I've got no say in that. Enjoy the slideshow. So there you go, BeetleStone, cut and polished and lacquered in the end. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you haven't already subscribed, please consider doing so. Plus share this if you have any like-minded rock-loving friends. Till next time, see ya.